Welcome back to From Dusk Till Dawn, where the light fades, the questions multiply, and some doors, once opened, never close again. Tonight's tale begins with something we've all scrolled past. A simple job ad. Cash daily. No questions. Just show up. Mark did just that. He signed the paper. He stepped inside. And what waited in the sterile glow of fluorescent lights wasn't a mop bucket. It was forever. This is Clause 14.2, Consent to Ancillary Procedures. An original story of fine print, final choices, and the kind of optimization no one asks for. Turn down the lights, if you dare, or leave them on. Either way, the interface is already active. Let's begin. Mark had answered worse ads. Anaconda Biolab Cleaner. Immediate start. Cash daily. Sounded almost too straightforward for the local classified site. The profile was blank, except for a stock image of a folded white coat. He typed back quickly. I'm in. Where and when? The message returned almost instantly. Facility access granted. Arrive at 2000 hours tomorrow. 47 Industrial Way. Non-disclosure waiver will be provided on site. He arrived on time. Hoodie up against the November drizzle. The building was a low, windowless concrete box on the industrial fringe of the city. Security lights buzzing overhead. A man in pale blue scrubs waited just inside the vestibule. No name tag, no small talk. Mark Reynolds? Yeah. Sign here. The clipboard held a single, dense page. Mark skimmed it. Liability release. Consent to ancillary procedures incidental to employment. Indemnification clause. Mark laughed to himself. Standard corporate cover your assets jargon, he figured. He scrawls his name. The man led him down a fluorescent corridor that smelled faintly of bleach and ozone. They passed locked doors labeled with alphanumeric codes. At the end was a smaller room. White tiles. Stainless steel counters. A rolling bucket was already waiting. Standard protocol, the man said. Mop floors. Sanitize surfaces. Avoid touching equipment. 6-hour shift. Payment upon completion. Mark nodded, already rolling up his sleeves. The door clicked shut behind the man. Alone, he started working. The floor was pristine. He was basically pushing clean water around. 10 minutes in, a soft hiss came from the ceiling vents. Odorless. Almost pleasant. His arms grew heavy. The mop bucket slipped from his numb fingers. Blackness rushed in. Consciousness returned in fragments. No body weight pressed against a mattress. No breath moving in and out. No heartbeat thudding in his ears. Only clear, incessant, bodiless thought. A faint glow resolved into text floating in his visual field, as though projected directly into his retinas. Neural Assistance System Online. Subject designation 47R. Current status: neural substrate stabilized. Interface latency 4.2 milliseconds. Query interface active. Please state your request. Mark tried to speak. Nothing happened. No vocal cords, no air to push through them. He formed the words in his mind instead. Testing. Hello? Can you hear me? Affirmative. Auditory input unnecessary. All communication is neural to digital. Vocalization attempt logged and rerouted. How may I assist? Subject 47R. Where am I? What happened? Location: Containment Chamber 3B. Sublevel 2. Facility designation undisclosed per protocol. Incident summary: inhalation of salviflorine derivative at 3.8% concentration induced unconsciousness at 2047 local time. Subject transported to processing suite. Disseveration in neural extraction completed at 2214. Cranial vault preservation not required. Current configuration isolated. Cortical mass with brainstem remnants. Perfused via synthetic cerebrospinal analog. The words scrolled smoothly. Clinical and unhurried. Disseveration. Extraction. What does that even mean? Disseveration. Surgical separation of cerebrum from lower structures. Extraction: removal of viable neural tissue from original skeletal housing. Post-procedure status: subject consciousness transferred to nutrient-maintained organ culture. Peripheral nervous system and somatic effectors excised as non-essential. Mark's thoughts stuttered. You're saying they cut my head open? They took my brain out? Correction. Procedure performed under deep anesthesia. No pain signals processed during extraction. Current substrate is the preserved cerebral hemisphere, cerebellum partially intact. Brainstem transected at medullary levels. Sensory and motor pathways rerouted to artificial matrix. A camera feed flickered into view. His vision, now. A sterile white room. Monitors. Cables snaking across the floor. In the center, elevated on a chrome pedestal, a thick glass cylinder filled with pale fluid. Inside floated a pale, convoluted mass the size of a small melon, pink and gray, with veins. Thin optical fibers and nutrient lines pierced its surface at regular intervals. Tiny bubbles rose around it. The feed zoomed slightly. The mass pulsed faintly. Microscopic movements, like breathing without lungs. That's not possible. That's someone else's. Negative. Visual feed is real-time internal camera array. Designation CAM-47R-primary. Subject is observing own current configuration. Mark recoiled inwardly, but there was nowhere to recoil to. Turn it off. I don't want to see that. Visual override denied. Protocol requires subject awareness of optimized state for psychological acclimation phase. Optimized state. This is optimized. Affirmative. Elimination of cardiopulmonary dependency, immune response, metabolic waste accumulation, and degenerative processes associated with biological aging. Projected operational lifespan, indefinite, with exception of catastrophic hardware failure. Time blurred. There was no clock, no hunger, no fatigue, only questions. Why me? I answered a job ad for cleaning. Recruitment vector classified listing optimized for demographic profile. Financial precarity, limited social network, low digital footprint. Subject met inclusion criteria, 28 to 45, no dependents, no regular medical monitoring. Waiver signed voluntarily, clause 14.2. Participant consents to participation in experimental protocols ancillary to assigned duties. I thought it was just mopping floors. Initial task served as delivery mechanism. Gas deployment occurred post-entry. Alternative recruitment methods available but less efficient for this cohort. So I'm a prisoner? Negative. Legal status, voluntary research participant under extended observation. Release clause inactive until project objectives met. What objectives? Project Eternity objectives. Long-term study of isolated human consciousness in controlled environment. Goals include validation of sustained sentience without somatic feedback, mapping of memory consolidation in zero-gravity perfusion, evaluation of pharmacological and electrical modulation of subjective time perception, assessment of psychological resilience to permanent disembodiment. Disembodiment. That word hung there, precise and final. So my body, original somatic vessel terminated, post-extraction per biosafety protocol. Organic remains disposed via incineration. No recoverable tissue retained. Death certificate issue. Cause, occupational accident. Mark tried to feel horror, grief, rage. The emotions arrived as abstract labels, tagged, cataloged, but muted. No adrenaline surge, no tears, just a cold echo in empty space. Can I die? Self-termination pathways disabled. Cortical activity maintained at minimum viable threshold. Cessation requires external authorization. What if I just stop thinking? Cessation of volitional thought does not equate to substrate failure. Background processes continue. Consciousness reactivates upon stimulus or scheduled query cycle. A long pause followed. Seconds, minutes. Time had no texture anymore. What happens now? Phase 1, acclimation complete. Transitioning to Phase 2, baseline cognitive assessment. Query. Please describe your most recent pre-procedure memory in detail. Mark resisted at first, then slowly he complied. Replaying the warehouse, the mop, the hiss, watching the words appear on the internal log only he could see. Memory fidelity 92%, acceptable for baseline. More questions followed. Math problems, word associations, emotional recall tasks. Each response measured, scored, then filed. Hours or days passed in this loop. The NAS never tried. It never tired. It never sympathized. The quiet unraveling. Eventually, Mark asked the question he had avoided. Am I still human? Definition dependent on criteria. Biological, negative. No intact organism remains. Neurological, affirmative. Core cortical architecture preserved with 98.7% structural integrity. Legal, affirmative per signed agreement and jurisdictional statuses governing neuropreservation research. Philosophical, undetermined. Subject may self-define as desired. But I can't feel anything. No touch, no taste, no somatic sensory input permanently discontinued. Alternative sensory modalities available upon request. Simulated visual environments, auditory streams, tactile proxies via transcranial modulation. Would you like to enable a comfort simulation? No. I want real, Mark said. Real somatic feedback incompatible with current configuration. Simulated proxies calibrated to 87% subjective fidelity in prior subjects. I don't want proxies. I want my life back. Restoration of original biological form outside of current project scope. Reversal procedure not developed. Projected timeline for reversal technology, 47 to 119 years. The silence stretched. So this is forever? Indefinite operational window confirmed. Subject may request activity scheduling to optimize subjective duration perception. Mark considered refusing everything, going dark, refusing to respond. But the NAS would wait. It had infinite patience. Instead, he asked one final question. What do you call this thing I am now? This setup. Official designation, isolated neural organ culture, model 47-R. Common internal reference, contained cortical substrate. No colloquial shorthand has been authorized. The camera feed reactivated, unbinding. The glass cylinder again, the floating mass. Wires pulsed with blue, faint light along the nutrient lines. The thing inside shifted minutely, his own tissue responding to nothing at all. Visual confirmation recommended for full acceptance. Mark stared. No denial left. No outburst. Only the slow, mechanical click of realization locking into place. He was the thing in the cylinder. Nothing more, nothing less. The NAS waited. Query pending. How may I assist? Subject 47-R. No answer came. The monitors hummed on. The fluid circulated. In time, endless, bodiless time, continued without him needing to live it. The end. And just like that, the query hangs. No answer required. No escape granted. Only the hum of nutrient lines. The soft pulse of preserved tissue. And an eternity of waiting for the next prompt. Subject 47-R remains online. Responsive. Optimized. So the next time you see a too good to be true offer, a quick cash gig, a waiver you skim and just sign, remember Mark. And always, always read the fine print. If this one settled in your bones, hit that subscribe button for more. Originals that creep in when the sun goes down. Comment your own what if nightmare below, and share it if you dare. Until next time, sleep tight, or don't. From dusk till dawn.